Thank you for having me this morning. Again, I'm Craig Wescott. I'm president and CEO of the Track Family Fun Parks in Branson, Missouri. First of all, as you can imagine, I was a little distraught yesterday, last night when I got in too late, started looking through my notes, and my handwritten notes were in all caps. So it was a tough night, but I got through it. I want to thank the amigos for having me this morning. To tell this story. What I'm about to tell you is, I think, fits very well with Differentiate this year. So, first of all, I love a good heel click. So I usually do this to embarrass my family, especially my daughters, but a couple of times have been worthy of having someone photograph this. So this one was in the May of 2014. This is Sunny. This was my dream car, and actually I got it. So this is Sunny, a 1976 Volkswagen Westphalia, which is a pop-top camper, and enough said. It's cool as it sits there, so not much more to say about that. What I'm going to tell you today is the story of why this time was important to photograph. Although we didn't do quite as well as the timing on getting the heels together, which took a lot of takes that first time around, so that's probably why we didn't do it. What I'm going to tell you is the story of what happened here. A little bit more about the company. We are family owned, been in business for 35 years in Branson. I have one business partner. My dad was the founder of the company. He and his partners retired in 2001, and my current partner, a few more of us, but my current partner and I actually are both sons of those of original partners. So my dad and Mike's dad were both partners in the original business. So we've taken that to the next generation. So we have 4 family entertainment centers in Branson. If you don't know much about Branson, this is a very interesting stat. 11,000 technical population. I would say 25,000 is probably more the realistic number. And Branson entertains 9 million people a year. So do some math on the labor market there. That's a whole different topic. Our vision is building memorable family traditions, and we do that by creating unforgettable moments. It's all about those details. It's all about those moments. We do that by use of outdoor and indoor attractions. We primarily are outdoor. At our 4 locations, we have 14 go-kart tracks of all different sizes and shapes. But we also have bumper boats, bumper cars, laser tag, batting cages, arcades, some food operations, mainly leased out, and more. So what Rick referred to on the screen, that's heavy metal high-rise. We built that in 2011. So these high-rise tracks have been our feature, I would say, for the last 15 years. We've built 3 of them. 2 of them are wooden, and this one is concrete. So 2015, as it turned out, ended up being a really good year to talk about Ferris wheels. So we had been intrigued by this idea. Branson is a beautiful place. It's got entertainment just all over the place. We figured the synergy of that landscape and entertainment was a perfect spot. We had a little bit of issue with just thinking through these brand new wheels that are up in a lot of cities on beaches and wherever are very expensive. We ultimately really had cash flow. The file just kept closing because of the realistic reality of the cash flow situation. We had confidence, though, that in a place like Branson, a big enough Ferris wheel would be a great icon, and we were excited that it would increase our business if we ever happened to be the ones that would do this process. So, February 10th, 2015, all this said, I was at a conference much like this, met a gentleman from St. Louis. This gentleman, that was a great connection right off the bat, both from Missouri, and then he said, oh, well, I operate the Myrtle Beach Skywheel for the last 5 years. So immediately my radar's up, and I said, hey, can I sit by you at lunch one day? And so we sat there, we talked shop about Ferris wheels. I learned a whole lot. They had actually looked at the Branson market in like 2012, and there were a few things that they just couldn't get right in their head, with the ultimate one being cash flowing a wheel like they have in Myrtle Beach. Very nice to meet you. let's keep up. We're both in Missouri, that sort of thing. June 1st comes around. The vibe in Branson for the last few years here, it's my hometown. I've loved it, and it's always been good. But the vibe from a business standpoint is really good right now. And so I emailed him June and said, hey, kind of a follow-up. There's a lot going on in Branson, a lot of great things, a lot of investments with family stuff, attractions, outdoors. Some of those things you talked about in 2012, let's open this Branson book a little bit and talk a little more. Ultimately, we still got to the fact that to spend $10 to $25 million on an iconic type wheel wasn't going to work. October 7th, the day that changed my life, literally, he sends an email to me and he says, hey, I got something for you, I think. The Navy Pier in Chicago is taking down their iconic wheel. They're putting up a brand new high-tech heated, air-conditioned video screens, higher capacity ride. I think you could get it for this. I believe that we've ridden it. We rode it the day after it closed. It's in good shape. It is 20 years old, but it's simple. I mean, it's like they were at that time period. I loved from the second I finished the sentence, I loved the thought because it was something money couldn't buy. It came with a great story where something brand new, and this isn't always the case, but it came with these connections and that sort of thing. The Navy Pier Ferris wheel, as it sat in Chicago, it was inspired by the original Ferris wheel by George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. I learned a lot about Ferris wheels here in this last year. In 1893, this one is it's part of the skyline, as you can see, for 20 years, ridden by 17 million people, 240 capacity, 40 gondolas, 150 foot tall. There's a lot bigger ones in the world right now, but Branson didn't need that one. I mean, the scope of one in Vegas being 550 feet makes sense. Branson didn't need that. But the fact that it came with every story, every memory of all these people, it's 8-9 hour drive from Branson, so that Midwest connection, people would know it where it was. So the Navy Pier Ferris wheel. So this slide is ridiculous because this process was ridiculous and awesome. I'm going to highlight, let's see. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to highlight first real quick. I'm not going to test you on this later or go through every point on here, but December 31st is kind of a key here. So December 31st, like I said, we had 2 partners now. We had 3 for the last 15 years. It was a great partnership, but Larry, who was retiring, wanted me to be able to take over my dad's company. He had been brought in at a time that he needed to be. And so this was the end of kind of a 2 to 3 year succession plan. So we're buying him out. He was the largest stockholder of the 3 of us, and he was the CEO. And so I said, hey, Mike, and he agreed, let's take this year easy. We've got this massive new debt. Let's take it easy. Yeah. So October 7th comes and this email and all this, and it very confusing times as to what to really do or not do. But like I said, there was something about this Ferris wheel in Branson, Missouri that made a whole lot of sense. So like I said, this email, October 7th, we sent a drone up to check it out, see what the views were going to be, because again, it's the Ozark Mountains. If you've never been there, they're gorgeous. We had a meeting with the city, told them in confidence what we were looking at. They were very excited about this idea. And then we got some horrible news a month after this email that by the time we were interested in really talking to them, it was sold. It was sold to a city in Mexico, which, we were sad and like emotionally vested at this point, but then got kind of mad. Like, it's not going to mean what it would mean in Branson in Mexico. It wouldn't have the same connection that everybody knows. Oh yeah, the Navy Pier, or I've ridden the wheel, or whatever. So we go to IAPA, have a lunch meeting to get confirmation, and they say, yes, sure enough, it is gone. What's your next move? And we're just like, we don't have a next move. I mean, we were so kind of invested in this thought with this iconic wheel. And so we went, basically said caveat is if they don't perform on their contract, which I'm sure was more money, by the day after Thanksgiving, it's back available. Sure enough, December 7th, here comes the second email. Guess what? it's available, and we jumped hard as we possibly could. So say through December, here's basically what we did. We committed $50,000 before we had the land next door that we needed, a 50-foot variance. The ordinance is 100 feet in Branson. We needed 150, and some side variance as well. An official yes from the bank. We had let them know what we were talking to these folks about, but we didn't have anything official. This had all obviously happened very quickly. A blessing from Navy Pier. We wanted to be able to talk to Navy Pier and say, look, we want to continue the story of this ride, keep telling about its history and all that. So we felt like we kind of needed their blessing, or wanted it anyway. And then a guarantee of buying this and doing all this and being able to open it at a time where we could start making money versus waiting 6 months and having to wait till literally probably next week to start. So we made the jump without all of that, and knew it was crazy, and we were buying out a partner, and it made no sense at all. But I just call it leaps of faith that just kept coming through. So this thing could have fallen apart in about 7 different ways. January 28th, I went to a Board of Adjustment meeting, the most boring meeting you ever could have that ended up with something so exciting. Our friends back here with Bigfoot on the Strip in Branson, they were at the same time going through a different process through the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen, and had a 200-foot tower ride by Soaring Eagle. Well, ours was, nothing was in public yet, so we were quietly in the shadows watching, very supportive, obviously, of tall things, being that we had one in our back pocket. And we're supportive of them. You know, they had a bit of a rough start right off the first meeting, but then by the time the Alderman meeting came, everybody was very excited. Hey, Branson's growing. This is exactly what we want. And there was one gentleman who got up and said negative things about, we don't need tall things in Branson. It'll ruin the landscape and all this. The one gentleman is on the Board of Adjustment. So the process that we went through, it's 4 people. You need 4 positive votes. You've got to prove these points. You raise your right hand. It's like the judicial branch of government if you've been through that. Thankfully, the city and I agreed in our presentations. We make our case. We needed 4 votes. At one point, we thought there were only going to be 4 there, and we had the only guy in Branson of one of those 4 talking negative about these sorts of projects, and we were going to go up in front of him. There ended up being 5, so we still just needed 4. And in the end, the guy that we were scared of made the motion to accept what we were doing. So at that point, that was the last domino to fall. January 29th, the next morning, we had a little video ready to roll. Navy Pier had hooked us up with video footage and this and that. And then we had a press release. The CVB in Branson was very involved and knew of this and knew that it was a big deal for Branson. And so they were a partner in this. So the 29th, they sent out on our behalf an email to, even like something like Heavy Metal High Rise, I don't remember, but we probably sent 50 press releases. So at 9 a.m., over 18,000 emails go out to media across the country. I can never relive that day. It was unbelievable. At 9:10, Chicago Tribune calls me. I never thought I'd talk to anybody from Chicago Tribune. Then I have to list them here. I talked to the CVB, talked to these people ran stories. Chicago Tribune, I did talk to 3 NPRs that day in the Midwest and interviewed with them, interviewed with Fox News Radio. So it hit the Associated Press, it hit Reuters, so it was in USA Today, Dallas Morning News. The Weather Channel called, wanted to put a webcam on it. Let's see, a syndicated travel radio show. Of course, Kansas City News, St. Louis News, all the local news outlets, of course. And that night when I don't even know that it settled, LA Times, New York Times, I was reading about it online. So it was crazy, over 150 contacts at one point, and our community was very excited about this as well. So the craziness with the construction is a whole nother several hours, but you can kind of get the feel if you look on the right. It all happened with a great team effort between Dutch Wheels and our team. You had this very international team working hand in hand with our guys and a lot of mutual respect. We had never seen a group work like that before and be such masters of their craft. So this is the before. I don't think I mentioned before, let's see. You'll see it in just a second. But right over in those trees, which all got taken out by a tornado in 2012, we had a mini golf course called Gator Golf. It had been there since, I think, 1983. And this is what it looks like now. So it is gorgeous and beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Some fun facts, I'm going to go fast on these. 26 semis it took to deliver from Chicago to Branson. We followed that. We documented every second of it, basically. The piers for those 8 columns are 54 inches wide, and depending on if the rock stayed solid, which it usually does in where we're located, 8 feet was had to be, and some of them went down to 23 feet. It was actually labeled the hole from hell, the one that went, and we kept having to go down. 23 feet wide, full of concrete with rebar I had never seen before, wider, thicker than my arm. So some other stats there on the left. A couple things we did, a new paint job. It looked okay, but we wanted to keep its history and tell all the stories, but we wanted to make it ours as well. So we did about a $150,000 paint job on it with an ungodly amount of per gallon that I'd never heard of, but it's supposed to last a long time. New LED lighting, we love the incandescent lights. The first thing when we looked at it, we're like, let's keep them, but then we immediately were like, let's go to LED for all the reasons you go to LED. 16,000 fixtures, it's the same number that was on the previous, same light bars, and there's 144,000 LEDs within that. Interesting story with that, probably the best decision we made in this was we got quotes from all the folks you guys see at IAP, all the big companies, international and that sort of thing. There was a local entertainer, producer, a group called the Haygoods in Branson, very talented group. He is the lighting guy, their production guy. He's actually the one who documented all this, went with us, followed videos and that sort of thing, or videoed us. And he said, hey, could I have a shot at the lights? And we're just like, laughed almost, just because we're like, we don't know if this is going to translate. Long story short, many meetings, we decided to go with the local guy, and we spent about $155,000 on lights, which was literally a fraction of what we were looking at with 2 or 3 other companies. What that did with his production mindset is we created Electrify, a music and light spectacular. It plays 3 to 5 times nightly. On the hour, we produced 3 different shows this past year, and a Christmas show. We're going to probably produce 2 and 1 this year, and it's an ongoing thing. They're different every hour and that sort of thing. The lighting is, that what you saw right there was just a piece of it. I mean, the wheel goes dark, all the audio for the whole park flips to this, and it's all synced up, and it's unbelievable. So in the end, $4 million total investment. We thought it was going to be about 2.5. Yes, exactly. We believed it was 2.5, and I think what happened was God was protecting me from chickening out. I'm convinced that, because if you would have walked in and said it's going to cost $4 million with everything we had going on, I don't know if we would have done it. So it was $4 million. The ad equivalency for Branson, $4.1 million. So to put that in perspective, because I didn't really know, I said to our CVB PR person who's been in this business forever, what's going to be a good ad equivalency? And she said, oh, good, regional, and then maybe some national exposure, 50 to 100,000. 4.1 million, it just blows my mind. It actually is the most positive news story in Branson's history. And like to be a part of that, to be in the driver's seat on that, but really feel like we were just along for the ride with this team of people from the CVB and all the construction people and all this, it was unbelievable. Social media, buzz, photos, all that, I don't even have to tell you guys how important that is, but millions of things are happening online, especially throughout the summer. Pictures, videos, all this stuff, these shows that have been Facebook Lived out, crazy, crazy numbers. Our ridership is exceeding expectations. We opened June 23rd. We did $1.5 million in revenue this year. We expect that a full year will be $2 million, and we hope more than that. So we feel like that we can probably pay it off in 5 years, maybe sooner. It's, to us, this kind of investment, that's worth it. A lot of these arcade games you're trying to pay off in 4 months or whatever. If we could do that, that would be awesome, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And then the extra activity from Electrify, like I said, it's every hour, so the length of stay, people stay around, they know the next show's coming, has helped our length of stay. So some impacts here. It took 11 days of the Ferris wheel operations to equal what the number of players that played mini golf the entire year before. And then this is the kicker. It took 4 days of Ferris wheel revenue to equal the revenue that mini golf did. We felt good about, we didn't know that stat for a while, but not only that, it increased everything else at the park, up 20%, probably minimum. I didn't run the latest numbers, but everything else on the park went up because of this. It opens up a new market for us. Branson in the fall it has an older demographic. Some of the perceptions are really related to the fall with older people and that sort of thing. However, cool grandparents get on go-karts, but usually they're on the sidelines. They will get on a nostalgic Ferris wheel in a second. And then creating unforgettable moments, which is our mission, in very cool ways. You see the picture of a wedding shot there. We've had everything from mini proposals, which we knew happened with Navy Pier, mini proposals, things like this. We've actually had 2 weddings on the wheel already, and whatever, 70-year anniversaries or crazy numbers, from newborn babies all the way to 100-year-old Alice, who was there and all she wanted to do was ride a Ferris wheel. We got to pay a little honor to the Chicago Cubs and make, it has to be the biggest Cubs logo ever, and support them, which is difficult in St. Louis Cardinals country. We actually got hate feedback from our guests, some of our guests. So you could see why I was clicking my heels. This was early in the process, but this big pile of steel eventually became that. It has turned everything that we do around it, has turned our brand into something new, even though we're still go-karts, bread and butter, and other attractions. It's that. Takeaways real quick. Never miss a chance to network. I'm standing here today because I made sure I went and sat next to a guy at lunch, and the rest is history. So never miss a chance. Seize the opportunity. If you can't believe that there were plenty of reasons to not do this and take the leaps of faith, that's crazy talk, because we decided to take this opportunity. It was once in a lifetime, and it worked out. Continually cultivate the relationships with your bankers. We couldn't have walked in and done this if we didn't have great relationships with our bankers, with the city, with our CVB and all of that. Use your CVB chamber resources. You never know what they're going to help you with. Again, this was a special deal. This wouldn't have happened if just a brand new Ferris wheel, and it sure never happened with anything we've done before, but because of the connection and the nostalgia and all of that, it was a perfect news story for Branson, and we just got to ride on the coattails of that. Do it right the first time. We spent that money up front on lights and LEDs and putting bathrooms there when we originally didn't want to, and all those things. We did all that up front, and we felt like it was the right thing to do. And then manage post-adrenaline period. It was the biggest blur in my life for that, especially February through June, but I can remember every detail. But it took a toll. The challenges were we were tired. We killed ourselves to get this thing done. Our managers, you guys know this, summer's peak time. They start fresh and then get tired. They started dead because all we did was work hard till June 23rd. So, I'm a new CEO, and I'm not a very good one yet, I don't think. But what I know is I need to take care of trying to fix relationships, or not fix, but just there's the stress, the emotion, everything that happened within this needs to be managed, and I know it's my job now to do that. So I don't fully know, and I'm still working on how we handle the post of this whole thing. But anyway, if this is not differentiated, I don't know what is, but I really appreciate having the opportunity to tell this story. Hope it inspires you to do something new.